Hello everyone. Let's quickly revise the clinical diagnostic methods in endodontics. As Sir William Osler said, listen to your patient carefully and the patient will give you the diagnosis. We all are aware of different kinds of tests that we do for determining the vitality and the presence of pulp during an endodontic chief complaint, and we bring the diagnosis on the table to the patient and provide the right kind of treatment options so that the patient is well aware of the benefit to the risk ratio. Also, the patient has the right to understand that what is the prognosis of the tooth in which the actual chief complaint is been pertaining for a very long time. And as we all know, endodontic pain is usually excruciating. In this video, we will be covering basically the thermal testing and all the other tests, the objective symptoms that the patient tell us. And as we all understand that these are the tests that clinicians do to ascertain what's the actual diagnosis. So subjective symptoms are usually what the patient provides us, and they tell us about the symptoms that are present, and according to that careful listening, we create a list of tests that we should do to bring down the differential diagnosis and provisional diagnosis, followed by a definitive diagnosis to the patient. So pain is one of the subjective symptoms that we understand for the to the patient, and has been the chief reason for a patient to visit a dental clinic. And the objective symptoms are seen with different methods like visual and tactile inspection, percussion, palpation, the mobility of the tooth and the depressibility of the tooth within the alveolar socket, uh, bite test that is usually available, radiographs, yes, the best and the foremost method of diagnosing, giving a diagnosis for dental pain, electric pulp test, thermal test, hot and cold, and this video will actually focus on these actual very practical methods of bringing the diagnosis on the table of the clinician. Anesthetic test and test cavities. So as we all know that when we do the visual and tactile method of checkup, we usually see the tooth part and the gingiva part, and the 3C rule is applicable. We have to make sure that the color of the gingiva, the contour of the gingiva, and the consistency of the gingiva has to be proper or within the normal limits. If anything that is away from the normal or that has some kind of pathology or change in the normal from the normal point of view, can be considered as a method or a symptom of objective symptom of differentiation to get the diagnosis. Also the tooth surface, so there also on the hard tissue we have 3Cs, that means the color of the tooth, the consistency of the tooth, and the contour of the tooth also defines us and brings us lot of information. So we all know that when the gingiva is spongy and is not normal, definitely there is some kind of pathology or alveolar bone loss. Similarly, when there is a change in the tooth color, that means either it will be pink, that means pulpal inflammation is happening and hyperplasia is happening, or some sort of resorption is happening inside the tooth. If the tooth darkens, that we go to a conclusion that the pulp has already been dead, and the discoloration is happening. Also, when there is slight changes in the consistency or slight change in color, that means the tooth is going through some sort of caries process, and we do check it with the other differential methods and visual methods. Percussion and palpation are favorite methods of clinicians in entire world to understand the health of the periodontal ligament and the tooth itself. So usually a percussion method brings us the health of the PDL. That means when you percuss a tooth with the back end of a mouth mirror or just with the fingertip, if you press the tooth and you percuss the tooth very slightly, let us consider that tooth, the first molar of the second quadrant, that means the first molar or 2-6. So if we try to press it slightly and there is some slight compression, we can understand that there is definite periodontitis and the patient will definitely complain you of pain while compression is done. In acute cases, patient will tell that while you were percussing the tooth with the back end of a mouth mirror, that time there was a sharp shooting pain, and that brings us the diagnosis also. Palpation is done on the soft tissue. So we have to see if there is a presence of swelling on the concerned tooth and in the buccal or the palatal vestibule, or similarly on the buccal or the lingual vestibule. So we understand the health of the alveolar bone also with palpation. Coming to the mobility and dispressibility test, when there is mobility of the tooth and you can depress the tooth within the alveolar bone. If you press the tooth and the tooth goes inside and moves inside the alveolar socket, and when you palpate it, if there is some sort of exudate or frank pus is coming out, you definitely know that there is lot of damage to the periodontal tissue and the alveolar bone. It can be due to periodontal disease, primary periodontal disease followed by a secondary endodontic lesion, or a primary endodontic lesion followed by a secondary periodontal disease. So this can happen or both in combination. So we have to be very careful while doing this compressibility test or the mobility test. If you feel that there is lot of mobility in the tooth between grade 2 and grade 3, as we all know, grade 1 is just slight mobility and it is not always available. Something, if it is just more than 1 mm, there is mobility of the tooth more than 1 mm, it is grade 2. I'm sorry, when the mobility is within the range of 1 mm, it is grade 2, and if it is more than 1 mm, it is grade 3. So grade 3, that means usually we make sure that only if the patient is agreeing for the further treatment, then only we will attempt a root canal procedure, a non-surgical root canal procedure. But in grade 2 mobility, usually it has been observed that when a root canal therapy has been done and over a period of 3 weeks time, the mobility of the tooth decreases and the tooth can be brought to a near normal level or a mobility level between grade 2 and grade 1. Bite test is my favorite. Usually I ask a patient to bite onto a earbud. Usually this kind of pressure is required to chew a bread or food. That means a small amount of roti or rice or a small bite of a vegetable or something in the daily diet or a salad. So if the patient tells me that while biting it was painful, I understand that it is a acute periodontitis case and the patient does need emergency pain relief procedure. If the procedure says that while the patient was biting it was not hurting, but while the patient was opening the bite and it was hurtful, we usually confirm with radiographs there must be a fracture or a crack within the tooth. So we have to confirm it using a radiograph. If in the radiograph you don't see a horizontal fracture or it is not evident, I would suggest, because the patient will be in a lot of pain, you can use trans elimination method or methylene blue dye method. These two methods are frequently used to diagnose a tooth fracture. Also, if these two methods are not possible or you want to be very sure about the location of the fracture where the fracture is pertinent, and you want to tell the finest prognosis to the patient that if the tooth can be saved or not, I would suggest we have to refer a patient to a CBCT center for imaging of the tooth. If you don't have the facility, then referral is good in your city, because usually CBCT centers have specialists that deal with micro cracks, and in the imaging itself they are able to find out what all cracks and what all locations of the cracks are there, and that will give you a good amount of prognosis that the tooth can be saved or not. Coming to the electric pulp test, electric pulp test is frequently used in dental hospitals and dental colleges, and this is a very significant method of checking the vitality of the tooth, or we can say if the tooth can go for further investigation. But what happens with the electrical test is there are some problems with the test, because this test is not that much accurate. There can be possibilities that it actually sees the nerve stimulation and not the vitality. The blood stream cannot be seen, or the vitality cannot be seen in whole soul with when you're using electric pulp test. So what happens is during my entire learning, thermal tests have been very successfully used, very successfully used, and I would assure you that once you will start doing thermal test in your practices, the certainty of the diagnosis will become much sharper and you can conduct these tests with a lot of ease. So in thermal test there are two types of test. One is hot test and one is cold test. So let me show you how to do a hot test first. For hot test, I would use thermal stoppings. In certain practices, ball burnishers are used. This is a gatta pacha stopping that is actually used. The real indication of using this gatta pacha stick is they are used as temporary fillings of inlay preparations, because inlay preparations are indirect restorations, and these, when after the preparation for inlays are over, These thermal stoppings are like temporary filling of that space, followed by once you receive the prosthesis from the lab or the inlay from the lab, then it can be cemented, and it can be removed very easily from the tooth cavity or the inlay preparation. So I am using this thermal stopping. It is very easily available. This ball burnishers are very famous. Everybody knows it, and everybody knows how to use them in their practices. Some people also use hot water, some people use hot compound also, and some special instruments are available to carry the heat towards the tooth. So today we will learn how to use this instrument, this thermal test for tooth, and at what location we have to use it. So let's see if I can bring your focus onto this lecture, this area. You can see this entire tooth surface, this entire tooth surface. So for anteriors, what you have to do is, there is a you have to divide the tooth into two parts. That is the incisal 1/3 and the middle 1/3, and just this area, this junction is usually sufficient, and this is the real site for doing the thermal test. So we have to use our thermal test on this side. For posteriors, if you see this area, this is the occlusal 1/3 and junction of the middle 1/3. So on this area is usually used. The buccal surfaces of the tooth are mostly used for thermal testing. How to do a thermal testing? As we all know that ball burnishers are used conventionally over a spirit lamp, and they are brought here. But what happens is, ball burnishers can be very painful if they touch the soft tissue. So, and when we are learning these techniques, we actually forgot that the the temperature that has been on at the tip of the ball burnisher, it fades away very easily once we are moving from the source of heat, like a ball bur of sorry a source of heat like a Bunsen burner or a spirit lamp or any other source of heat. So if my instrument is traveling from that source of heat towards the tooth, we usually lose the control of the heat, and the consistency of heat can be different. So let us see how the patient will behave or react when once we are doing this test, how to do the test properly, and how things are changing in today's scenario. So I'll be using the gutta percha stopping today. Usually the patients are apprehensive about such test, mostly because they are going through the test for the first time. So I'll keep the marking here, and I'll do it on the first incisor of the central incisor of the second quadrant. So because I'll show you the location how to use it properly. So there is, once the tooth has been dried properly, you either apply glycerine or Vaseline towards the tooth surface to be tested, and I will use it on this tooth also. Let's see. Let's use it on this tooth. So let us consider the tooth of concern that needs a root canal treatment, or that has got a calcified canal, or the tooth that is under pain or discoloration, and something away from the normal is the first incisor, the central incisor of the second quadrant, and we will use the central incisor of the first quadrant like the control of the test. That means patient has to understand that the health of this tooth is normal, and something away from this normal tooth will be part of the test. So let's see how it goes. Don't burn the Gattapacha stick, just try to place it at the right location as we have already discussed. Try to place it and leave it here. So within this time the Gattapacha sticks becomes a bit hard. You can see it is so soft and it's stuck to the tooth surface. And if the tooth is just normal, the pulp is normal, this kind of heat does not hurt. It has been proven with research that this kind of heat test does not hurt the pulp if the pulp is normal. So you have to just remove it. Can you see this? Removed. And patient understands that this is a normal kind of heat that he will feel. If the tooth is inflamed, this kind of heat, because heat tests are focused on the C fibers of the pulp, the C fibers of the pulp that are towards the middle or the core of the pulp chamber. So the kind of heat that reaches the pulp is slower conduction, and the patient response can be also delayed. That means the patient can take up to 10 to 15 seconds to actually feel the kind of heat or tingling or painful sensation when the tooth is undergoing a heat test. So please make sure that you are not taking a very quick decision about the inflammation or the necrosed or the dead pulp. You are not taking a very quick decision. It has to be very calculated and it has to be very rationalized. So let's do it on the tooth. You don't have to burn the entire thing, and you have to just place it at the right location and see this. In this way you can actually make sure that a consistent heat is being applied as a test method for gauging how the tooth is responding to heat. Why heat is a chief test? Because if a tooth is responding hyperactively to the hot beverages, if the patient complains to that the patient has having difficulty towards having hot beverages, that means the pulp is already into the irreversible phase. The patient will feel tingling sensation and things will be defined with the heat test. There is a possibility that the patient says that we don't have, the patient is not feeling at all, anything at all. So what you have to do? Let's see. Let's keep it ready for the cold test also. So what happens when the patient says that the patient does not feel anything hot, any heat test is not working on the patient? That surely says that the tooth is already necrotic or the pulp is already necrotic and dead. You might not even use the anesthesia and you can directly start doing the cavity preparation or excess cavity preparation for decision of the patient that the tooth can be saved with root canal therapy. Coming to the second part of the thermal test, that is the cold test. So for cold test, usually ice is used in clinical practices. Also um, we have seen that lot of practices use dry ice, but dry ice is nowadays obsolete. We are using endofrost. Okay, this is endofrost is being used nowadays, and it brings around minus 50 degrees of temperature. So how to do it correctly? The same way, we have to mark the surface of the tooth as we have done it for the heat test. So let's see how it works. Don't forget to apply um, some glycerin or Vaseline or a toothpaste or a electric conductor, because these products that we are using are actually they can stick to the tooth surface and the patient might feel a bit different. So what we are doing is we are taking a tweezer, a small cotton pellet, and let's see how it works. So when you press it down, just make sure that it is fully drenched. Okay, so you can see this dripping of liquid, that says that it is the cotton pellet is fully drenched, and you place it over the concerned tooth. The patient should also be given a choice that once we are doing the checkup or this diagnostic checkup is happening, the normal tooth has to be shown as a standard to the patient, that you will, if the tooth is normal, you will feel like on the normal tooth. Then that same test is repeated for the tooth of concern, like we did for the heat test. This will make sure that the patient is not getting a surprise attack, and the patient does not go into a panic mode. These two methods, like the heat test and the cold test, they are definitive methods of finding your diagnosis. So um, once the cold test is over and the patient has given us the response, so let's see what all responses a patient can actually tell us. The patient will have only three kind of responses. One, the patient does not feel anything at all. That means the tooth can be necrotic or the pulp is already dead. The pulp has already been devitalized. So it can be due to the natural necrosis of the tooth or of the pulp, or the tooth has already been subjected to a root canal treatment in the past. This is the first kind of response. The second kind of response is the patient feels excruciating pain while you are placing this um, cotton pellet with the endofrost. So what happens is, that means it is a hyperemic reaction, or the pulp is highly inflamed. That gives us that pulpitis is present, and we need to take care of the patient. The patient definitely needs some kind of treatment. The third thing that might happen is patient will feel that cold or tingling sensation in the tooth, but at the moment you remove the cotton pellet away from the patient, from the tooth surface, the normal feeling will start setting, and the patient says the patient is totally comfortable. That means the tooth is normal. So only three things can be achieved with three kinds of responses can be achieved with the thermal test. Also, in case this endofrost is not available, or by default you the can is over, or in your vicinity or in your practices endofrost is not available, the conventional method that was earlier used was ice pellets or ice cubes. So how to use an ice cube, we'll just see in a while. Hope everybody is aware of these kinds of vials. These are gatta parcha vials or paper point vials that are available in our practices. Once they are over, the content is over, we usually throw them away, but you can use this vial for making a ice cube. The technique is fill it up totally and add a piece of floss to it till the end. After there is water inside this vial, you can close it. Keep it in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours so that that complete water gets frozen inside. And once you want to remove it, just rub it between the hands like this and open it up, and entire ice pellet will come out. This ice cube or ice pellet can be used on the tooth concerned. So what happens is the technique is while you're using a hot test with hot water or a cold test with cold air, cold water, or ice cube. The method is, if the tooth concerned is, let's take an example, the first premolar of second quadrant. If we take this as an example and we want to see how many teeth are involved, or this is the actual tooth of concern, or the patient has a diffuse kind of pain, and in cases when the patient is not able to locate the source of the pain, then what we have to do is we have to always test the most posterior teeth first, followed by the mesial one, followed by the next and the next, and the concerned tooth. So this will actually give us which tooth is involved. Do not go from mesial to distal, because if hot water is dripping, cold water is dripping, or ice is dripping, this might give you a false test, and the validity of the test can give you wrong results. So don't focus on doing just the directly the tooth concerned for hot test with hot water or with ice cold water. Try to do the distal tooth first, the distal tooth, and then the mesial, and for the tooth of concern. So this will help you in many ways. I will share with you some more videos from different mentors, how they have conducted hot water test under rubber dam, because these are substantive tests, and they tell us and actually why these tests are done, because we are reciprocating the kind of subjective symptoms for pain the patient was giving us. So let's feel more about the patient. In case these are not available and you are using some other kind of gatta parcha points, I am sure you guys are using this kind of vials for anesthesia. These are lignocaine vials, lignocaine from Septodent. So some other brands are also available. So these are glass vials, and these are very nice for making ice cubes. So once this is empty and they have been sterilized, you can use them again for patient use and diagnostic purpose and making ice cubes. So let's see that I would like to give a small assignment for all the listeners. please send over few x-rays of your choice, and we will they have to be only preoperative x-rays, and we will discuss amongst ourselves on the mentorship day or the assessment day how to come down to a diagnosis. Is it a pulpitis, it is a periodontitis, it's an abscess, or it's a chronic periradicular disease? So we will see all these kind of solutions. Once you are sending me your preoperative x-rays, please send your preoperative x-rays on the given or provided contact numbers, so that we are finishing off with the diagnostic module as early as possible. After this module, we are going for biomechanical preparation or cleaning and shaping, or the shaping for cleaning module. Um, by this time, I am aware that most of the participants have already gone through the material list, and they do have all the required materials for the next phase. If you are not getting these materials, please get in touch with me and I'll provide you the contact details of people. I'll try to provide those numbers in your regions. Till then, take care of yourself and keep learning. This is a good usage of time that everyone is doing, and I'm very proud of the entire batch that is happening right now. Please continue and keep in touch. Let me know what all difficulties you are getting in your patients, and I will come across with more solutions and in-depth knowledge on those particular cases. Take care.